Welcome back. We're reaching the final stretch of this hour, and it's time for our panelists' closing arguments. And we'll start to my left with John. Go ahead.
My grandfather was a medieval historian, wont to mutter, "It was better under Clovis." And I think if we want a clear-sighted view of what's going on, we have to drop the idea that everything's been getting better for hundreds and hundreds of years, and back then there were witch trials, and think seriously about whether the technology that we're developing is conducive to the flourishing of our humanity or is undermining it. And I think we have to face the fact that this latest technology with the AI is placing human beings and humanity and our ability to be useful to one another in enormous jeopardy. We're not cows and we're not plants. And I think we're in a lot of trouble over this, where you kind of vaguely say, oh, well, we'll think of some new way of education, or we'll finally have regulation work for a change. Things like that aren't going to work. We've got to get back to the core of what it means to be human and what it is that produces happiness and flourishing. And I'll tell you what, it's not social media.
Father Raymond.
I would say instead of turning back time, we have to take it back. I like that phrase because my main concern, we only have the same amount of hours in the day as we had before. And you fill it up with a lot of extraneous information. You fill it up with video games. You fill it up with entertainment, streaming services. We have less time for what's important. So turn back time, maybe, maybe not, but take back time by keeping a bit of the digital invasion at bay.
Ramona.
So, I mean, I think, is life better? It depends on who you're asking. If they look like you, then maybe, maybe life was always great. But I think there's a lot of people out there for whom life has gotten better and life continues to get better. I think education does need to change. I think we need to be critical thinkers. I think we need to be compassionate. I think we've got really big problems. But when it comes to things like video games, I also don't think we need to be afraid. People were afraid of books. It's a creative exploit. It is a way of learning. It is a way of solving problems. But in the long term, hopefully more knowledge, more tools at our disposal means that we can do things better. We can solve bigger problems.
Charles?
I'm a believer that life has never been better on Earth. The technology and medicine, ability to travel, to listen to music, the most creative voices that can come to your ears sitting in any place that you want to be in has never been more. People are creating more recipes for food. They're planting more things that are more delicious. There is so much that's going on in life, and yet at the same time, there's been so much unhappiness and loneliness and people being isolated. It's not these changes, it's not climate change and all of these things that are a problem. It's the fact that we cannot just put stuff away to have time for ourselves. There's got to be something inside you that demands that time for yourself. That's what we're missing. We have a hole inside us, and we're keeping ourselves busy. There is no way by just keeping children away from the social media that all of a sudden they're going to find that inner strength pop up from inside. It will go forward. It has to go forward. Embrace it, but take care of yourself.
And Janice?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Chaz just said. Let me just say, from an evolutionary perspective and from a spiritual and religious perspective, people were built to live in society. We're wired to have human connection. And one of the things I think that will characterize the next decade, we will make a much greater effort to connect with people, regardless of the technology that comes. We will make an effort to build that into our lives. We had close to a natural experiment during COVID. I taught virtually for 2 years. I've never seen students as unhappy as students that were sitting in a room with a machine listening to me on a machine. They could not wait to get back to physical connection with other students, which I frankly think is more important than physical connection with me. We ran that experiment. We know the results. The challenge is to make the effort and the time to build in more human connection, to put the machines down for a bit. If we're complaining about children who struggle with postponing gratification, we have to model what we're saying is important.
Absolutely. All right. And before we go, I will leave you with this. It's easy to romanticize the past, imagining a quieter, simpler time. But let's also not forget the undeniable strides made in the digital era, granting us unparalleled access to information, connectivity, and convenience. As we navigate its complexities, let's ask ourselves, are we genuinely better off today than we were half a century ago? And though reaching a consensus may elude us, perhaps the true value lies in the ongoing dialogue and the continuous pursuit of better understanding. To get in touch, you can send us an email, comments@thezoomer.com. Thank you to my panel for being here and to you at home watching. As always, we'll see you soon. For now, it's time to zoom out.